UK Bullion here, and welcome to part 2 of the interview with Lawrence Chard, owner and director of Chards Coin and Bullion Dealer, fantastic UK-based bullion dealer. If you've not checked out part 1 of the interview, that's probably the best place to start. I'll put a link to that down in the description below, but let's crack on with part 2. Now, I've mentioned coronavirus a few times. I just wanted to touch on it because the world has changed so much, such that we're doing a video interview rather than face-to-face. How do you see the world that we're living in now changing your business, or just generally the gold and silver purchasing world?
Sure. Well, it has changed it, obviously. We were aware of coronavirus back in December last year.
Okay.
And our son, Duncan, is particularly alert because he reads and looks at good quality news feeds frequently. He spends probably an hour or a few hours a day actually looking at those online. We actually get the print version of the Daily Telegraph, and Duncan will have a look at that, have a laugh at the headlines on the front page, and ask why we're still reading that garbage.
Sure.
Because Duncan is so aware, then that spills over to me as well. And certainly I'm aware that the WHO published an international alert on the 30th of January this year.
Sure.
Basically warning that it was in danger of becoming a pandemic.
Yeah.
And then I get frustrated because the UK government and others have been saying, oh, we didn't know anything about it till March, or then we had to, it's all new to us.
Yeah, I think without assigning blame of responses and everything, which is another topic for another whole video, I don't think anybody in this world could have quite predicted where we'd be, in late July. It is quite staggering how the world has changed. But one thing that has affected was sort of the supply of silver and gold coins from mints to dealers.
Yeah, that was kind of predictable.
Yeah.
Can I say that there had been studies about pandemics. I think the guesswork at the time was it would probably be a different strain of flu, but then nobody really knew. So politicians and other people shouldn't have been that surprised. We already knew, so we were thinking and planning ahead of it.
Yeah.
We actually locked down our showroom about a week before the official lockdown.
Yeah.
And we'd already been making plans for safe working. So yeah, it had a big effect. So it was, in those days, it was there was a big challenge there.
Yeah.
Nobody quite knew where it was going and how it would pan out, but obviously there was undoubtedly opportunity there, because whenever you get some change, it's both. It's a challenge, it's an opportunity.
Yes.
One of our major competitors, in fact, our major competitor in the UK, closed down for the whole of the...
A lot of dealers did, small and large, and it was fairly concerning, because I think we're probably talking about the same dealer, but I had an ounce of gold stored with that dealer.
All right, yeah.
And the thing starts going on, and lockdown happens, and you think, well, now I can't even go there and pick it up, let alone, because they'd stopped posting by that point, because there were insurance questions about Royal Mail special delivery and things.
Yeah, we managed to keep supplying. We checked with our insurers.
It was like, oh, well, if they've shut shop for good, what happens to that ounce of gold, or what happens to this? And it is interesting to see how things evolve quite so quickly during that time. And of course, it's such an important thing as well. If you were, fortunately, I'm always a proponent of very careful financial planning. Certainly, if you're going to get involved in metals and precious metals, this should be, done with a safety net behind you. So it's very important for me to hammer home that message. But for some people who lost their jobs, or who were unable to earn money, or had to dip into savings, to not have access to things like that if they had it stored would have been a pretty not fun time, to put it lightly. So
Sure, you're right about that. I hadn't actually thought about people who got material stored with companies that shut up the shops.
yeah.
The fact that you could no longer buy bullion by post for about 4 months was quite amusing.
Yes.
Interestingly, the guy who set that company up, the one that we are both talking about, says somewhere on their publicity things and on their website that he got into the business because back in the financial crash of 2008, 2007, 8, 9, the service in the bullion business was very bad. So he thought he could do better.
Slightly ironic, I suppose, isn't it?
Oh yeah. So what did he do when we had a similar problem? Closed for 4 months.
Yeah.
Totally pathetic. And now they've actually reopened. Look at their prices. Just
so that's going to be another interesting point which I wanted to ask you on. Obviously, there is an element of competitive data which you probably don't want to talk about too much, but we've talked about the fact that you guys sell 1% over gold. I've always found your prices very competitive, despite the fact that we are going through this period of hard supply from mints. It does seem like you guys have set yourself apart from some of the other dealers who are, I don't really like to say hiking prices, but taking advantage of a buying market that doesn't have a great deal of choice. Shall we put it like that?
Yeah, well, I think you've been very kind on them. And I could be
I don't like to make enemies. It's just not worth my hassle. But there are dealers, many of them. It's not just one or two. There are a lot that are hiking prices, that are taking advantage of individuals, especially people who are new to metals, that have gone through this crisis and gone, oh, maybe I should own metals, and then they found, whatever website or whatever company, and they've paid a premium, and they they shouldn't necessarily have done so.
Correct. Yeah, the panicky. We've been through it though, because in the global financial crash of a decade ago, a lot of things were similar.
Yeah.
In that the big buyers and largely the American market were hoovering up any bullion coins anywhere. So some of our suppliers in continental Europe just couldn't supply us anything because 10 minutes before, some American dealer had just gone out and bought 5,000 or 10,000 sovereigns from them and cleared them out. So we were struggling to get anything, Krugerrands, sometimes gold bars. So we'd been there before, and what happened then is the market kind of split, because where before that you could probably, the spread on Krugerrands, say, was probably buying at 99% or 100% and selling at maybe 2% premium.
Yeah.
Suddenly, other dealers were paying maybe 5% premium to buy Krugerrands.
Yeah.
And selling them at, say, 10% premium.
Yeah, well, it's still it's a better markup than they were doing before. And if the buyers are there for it, I mean, there's two sides of the coin, isn't there? I suppose there's the element of dealers deliberately taking advantage of a market, but then at the same time they are businesses, and businesses are there to ultimately make money.
Sure.
But it is refreshing to sort of hear that you guys operate on a slightly ethically higher compass, so to speak.
We try to, but it's not necessarily easy. But in any case, there's a question here that the market had changed, and that was the market at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So we perhaps made a mistake by not following that market and playing along with it.
Yeah.
Albeit at non-rip-off margins.
Sure.
I can remember one day seeing a perfectly ordinary average Krugerrand sell on eBay at a 27% premium.
You're touching on an interesting topic. eBay certainly is. It seems to be the place where people most take advantage of those new buyers of metals, and for some reason, buyers still keep on going there. And it does irk me that just a simple Google search will tell you that if you're wanting, even just this as an example, buying a 2019 Oriental Border Britannia, if you buy it on eBay for £33, you can get it a damn sight cheaper from any UK dealer, even with the VAT applied on top of it. I don't understand. It is mind-boggling. But anyway,
I
little
think
rant over.
I think it's eBay PR, and when it set out, it was a good resource, and I believe that there were no selling fees when it first set up, but then they hiked those up and changed the rules every few weeks or months.
Yeah.
And it's really, somebody said to me recently that it's kind of probably on its way out even.
I think it was myself that said that to you. We had a little phone call before we started this, and I was saying that eBay's changed even in the last sort of 4 or 5 years in my eyes to what I used to use it for, and I can't see it being as a relevant marketplace
I think you're right.
This social media world we live in, where there are targeted platforms, whether that be a community on Instagram or a community on Facebook or the Silver Forum or even here on YouTube. There are people who don't use it now because they don't want to, because it's rife with fakes, but it's also less easy to get your buyers, I find, and there are potential frauds from being a seller. You can put yourself at risk, so I just can't see it being relevant. But again, that's another topic for another video. We have many things that we could sit here and talk about, I think, for a very long time. One thing that I do want to ask you, which I really enjoyed seeing, was that metric ton of silver Britannias that you had delivered. You put a photograph up on the Silver Forum. Followers of my channel will have seen some of my monumental unboxings, and I think our biggest one was about 55 kilos of silver that we unpackaged. But that's a metric ton. Tell us about that, and tell us what it's like to take delivery, if you can.
Well, we also did a video as our silver. Wasn't quite an unboxing video, but we showed how many was it? 25,000 ounces, I think we have displayed in one shot. But the metric ton and the delivery, it's nowhere near as interesting and as exciting as taking delivery of 3.2 metric tons.
Oh, is that your record?
Yeah, we did that, and in that case, we actually it got shipped to Manchester Airport.
Yeah.
And for some reason, we couldn't get it tucked to us, so we had to go and collect it. And we didn't want to trust any of the shipping companies with that lot, so we hired a 7.5 ton wagon, which I drove, because in those days you could do on an ordinary license.
Yeah.
Now you can't. And our son Duncan came with me as shotgun, and my wife.
Literally or figuratively? Did you have armed escorts? Only 3.2 metric tons is an awful lot of money, and goodness me.
Yeah, he didn't actually have a shotgun, but he's a big lad, and we did have Stanley knives for helping to slash the packaging when we got back. And I wouldn't have wanted to argue with Duncan with a Stanley knife in his hand.
Fair enough.
And
but still, that's quite a story.
Yeah, driving the wagon was fun. We were just about legal, because the wagon we got had a maximum loading of about 3.25 tons.
Yeah. And
it's got to be evenly distributed, otherwise you're in trouble.
Yeah.
And
especially when it's such a dense object as well. If you got it all in the lorry up to the ceiling, it's a bit different. But if it's all on one particular side, it can be even more mad.
It came in 7 pallets, and the forklift drivers at Manchester Airport obviously knew what they were doing, and they actually distributed it very evenly for us.
That's fantastic. Did they know what was in it, or did they give you some funny looks and ask you?
No, but they know it goes in their value cage, or comes out of it at the airport handlers.
So I've been asked once or twice by the postman and the UPS driver, what on earth is in this very heavy, very dense parcel? And I have said a number of times that I'm a geologist, and I order samples of rocks and fossils and things like that. So it's my go-to excuse. But 3.2 metric tons, that's an awful lot of rocks. So
and a lot of unpacking, and a lot of ferrying across the pavement to our old showroom.
Yeah.
And it was a good day's work when it was done.
I can imagine.
Talking about what are things, yeah, I've been asked that. We once, a couple of times, got orders for silver coins to go to Norway.
Yeah.
So we took a DFDS ferry from Newcastle to where did we go? I should remember where we went. Probably, yeah. On one of the trips, yeah, on one of the trips, it was a mini cruise, so we got to see about 3 places.
Sure.
But yeah, we did Stavanger, and the first time was only something like 110 or 130 kilos. And so we bought some strong suitcases and took those with us.
Yeah.
Then we found out they had a luggage limit of 50 kilos.
Okay.
So we got away with that.
I always giggle because I've flown a few times up to Edinburgh and to Estonia as well. And EasyJet have no weight allowance on their hand luggage. Their only proviso is that you can lift it above your head into the lockers. So I've managed to go on EasyJet with 25 kilos in a little hand luggage.
Yeah, that's good. EasyJet, you're right. EasyJet are the better one.
Yes.
If it's Ryanair, I think they've got really tight limits.
Yeah.
And I looked into this because years ago, and it is a long time ago, I used to do some physical collections and deliveries. It wasn't silver either; it was gold.
Sure.
And I think I worked out one time that if I'd have got hit for excess baggage coming by EasyJet, because I did an EasyJet trip once, it would have cost me something like £800 excess charge.
Goodness me.
And I went via Lufthansa, and their charge would have been about £40.
Yes,
so
very different.
EasyJet aren't always cheap, and they're certainly not good. Sorry, not EasyJet, Ryanair. Avoid them. And Lufthansa also had a similar policy. If you could lift it onto the racks on your own, unaided, you could do it.
Yeah.
That was quite good. But on the Stavanger trip, we used the lift at one stage in the ship to go to our cabins to take the stuff down in. And my wife was in with one suitcase. I got in with another 2, I think, and the red light came on the lift, which said we were overweight.
That's not good.
I got out. And as it was a big lift and there were only about 5 people in there, it was obvious there was something going on. And then when Jane got to the deck we were going to, the main deck or whatever it was, some very kind Norwegians said, "Oh, we'll give you a hand with those 2 cases." And of course they couldn't even move them. I said, "Oh, what have you got in there?" Gold bars. And Jane said, "No, bricks."
Tell you what, I mean, we've been going for quite a while now, and so I want to just maybe we'll think about wrapping it up slowly. But I have a few other little questions from some people here on YouTube, if that's all right with you, Lawrence. Yeah. So we've got a question from Kota Nagant, who asks, "What is the most popular coin that you sell?"
The coin we sell most of has got to be silver Britannias.
Interesting. So that's presumably changed since a couple of decades ago when they weren't so common as a bullion item. But now it's Britannias, which is interesting.
Yeah. The second, probably the highest by value, one ounce gold Britannias. Yeah. But of course, you get a lot more silver ones for your money than you do gold ones.
Yes.
So those 2 items are 2 of the most important things. Unfortunately, mainly that has to be new. So there's slightly high premiums on both coins.
Yeah.
My preference on gold coins is actually bullion sovereigns, because secondary market bullion sovereigns can be had for very low percentage premiums, and they're still very popular. Probably about on a par with gold Britannias.
Okay, interesting stuff. It's nice to see that the Britannias are the strong winner from that.
Well, the winners because of the capital gains tax exemption.
Yes.
So I hope the government doesn't go and stop that, because there are possible tax clawbacks coming along.
Yeah, there was talk I saw on the Silver Forum. Somebody's mentioning that the capital gains tax allowance is being reviewed, so it would make it even more important to have that capital gains tax exemption status going forward, I suppose.
Yeah, I think so.
Excellent. We've got just having a look to see if there's any questions that I've asked quite a few of them already. We had one from Dave Mazzoni. I'll give him a shout out. He said, "What made Mr. Chard start the business? The lowly copper penny started this all," which is, I think, a really interesting. That's I find fascinating, and it's really nice actually because it kind of reflects a bit on myself. I started buying silver coins. I really enjoyed it. Started experimenting, pouring silver, and then the rest is history. So it's quite nice to have that. I think we've covered everybody's questions here from YouTube. So a big thank you to everybody who has joined in asking questions. Is there anything else, Lawrence, that you'd like to add before we close out about Chards, or anything that you want to ask me, perhaps, if we turn the tables?
Well, I think we should interview you sometime later. And
we could do a return leg, so to speak.
Yeah, the only thing there is really the future. And sure, I think we've touched on the future of the bullion markets worldwide, but probably not in great depth. But one thing that I'm delighted about is our future at Chards, because about 10 years back, people were asking me, when are you going to retire? Why don't you sell up? Pack it in, take it easy. Well, if we'd have sold, we'd have got nothing really for the business. Because a buyer would have had to have deep pockets to just buy the stock at intrinsic value. So that wasn't on. Closing it down would have been kind of ridiculous because it took 50 years to build it up. But our daughter Juliana decided that she could come in and join us, and she used to be a pharmacist, a hospital pharmacist with the NHS. So she's got the educational and intellectual nous to do things. She's also very artistic. So she's come on board as a kind of trainee numismatist. And she's doing a very good job. And her partner, boyfriend, Ian, is also a pharmacist, although he's an industrial pharmacist. And he's got great strength in systems and organisation. And so he used to help Juliana, and then he came in with us full time. So the two of them have been really taking over and driving the business forward in the last few years.
That's nice to hear. So,
and that means not only can I start to take it easy, so instead of doing 12-hour days, I can do 12-hour weeks. But and now I'm just in as almost a consultant, or just to give opinions here and there.
But
it's great.
The future of the business, secure, which is nice.
It can be there for another 50 years. It's not closing down. Yeah, I'm delighted about that.
Well, it's your legacy, I suppose, in a way, isn't it? And
it's nice to think that.
And the name Chard, it's your personal name, your surname. It will be synonymous, I think, for a long time with coins, dealerships, and just generally, I think, a really good level of service. And I know it's very difficult to blow one's own trumpet, and you've told us a lot about the business, you've told us a lot about what Chards do, but from my experience of dealing with you as a customer, I have to say it was a very, very pleasant buying experience. It was very easy, it was very professional, and that's always good to know that you guys will act with that integrity, certainly when it comes to something so important and integral to some people's finances. So
what I gathered from looking at your videos and our recent conversations is that you're a nice guy, and you're obviously in the business for very good reasons, and you're highly ethical. When it comes to blowing your trumpet, now I'd be terrible at doing that. I won't even try and play the piano behind me because I'm even worse at that.
Is it? Well, it's a difficult skill, I think, being promote your own self, but it is I think well deserved for Chards. I think you guys do a good job, and I think there's a lot of people out there who would share that sentiment. What we would love to hear from, though, is all of you guys out there who have got buying experiences from Chards. Let us know down in the comments, and let us know what you think of this interview as well. If you've enjoyed the video as we've gone throughout, then please make sure that you hit that thumbs up button. It really does help everything here on YouTube, sharing it through social media as well. And by the sounds of it, Lawrence, we might be sitting down again at some point in the future to do a return leg. So, if anybody needed no better reason than that to subscribe to the Backyard Bullion channel, then you have it. So we can maybe link up at some point in the future.
I'm looking forward to seeing the comments. Yes. I'm hoping that, that perhaps 99% of them are positive and good. There'll obviously be somebody who we sent a wrong coin to, or
there might well be. But I think, you know, in this world and in the way that we all live our lives now, it's impossible for anybody to be completely mistake-free in life. And I've always said it's the measure of anybody and any business how they deal with the bad situations. And you know, we'll maybe address that in a secondary follow-up video, but I like to think that nobody is beyond forgiveness and reproach despite what happens. So yes, it is an interesting world, and let us know down in the comment section what you think of today's interview. And as well, if you've got any questions for Lawrence or myself, we are more than happy to engage with you down in the comment section. All we ask is that you be polite and respectful of ours and other people's opinions. Otherwise, a big thank you to you, Lawrence, for joining me today and for taking the time out of your busy schedule to have a chat about metals and about the business.
Thank you. And to all you listeners and viewers, I hope you've enjoyed it. Get commenting.
And the last thing I obviously would say, there's a link to Chards' website in the description of this video for all of your bullion buying needs in the UK and abroad. Lawrence, do you ship internationally fairly regularly?
We certainly do. There's a few countries that we don't like shipping to, but we do ship to most.
Generally speaking then, if you are interested and there's a particular coin that Chards have, get in touch with them. I would highly recommend it. Otherwise, that's it from us. Thank you all for watching. Please make sure that you like, share, comment and subscribe for more.